This is Art Television.
So anyway, if you like to get yourself comfortable, if you need to sort of move something, scratch something or whatever. Those who need to go to the toilet's outside. And we can start this evening's little Dhamma talk for about 45 minutes and then followed by questions. So already I've got a subject for tonight. Somebody asked me if I had a subject. Often I don't have one until the very last minute. So today the subject is on attachment. Was it attachment or detachment? Or both? Detachment. Okay, that's much better. So it is something which sometimes you kind of notice. Why are we attached to things which we've got no control over? And how that causes us so many problems in our life. And why are we attached to things where we really should be letting go of them? And one of those little anecdotes about attachment was when I mentioned even today that when I first went to see family, which was over in, I don't know actually where I was born, but actually I told people today I grew up in the bush. I'm a boy from the bush, Shepherd's Bush in London, in the middle of London. But nevertheless, that coming to a place like Australia, the first time I went to visit my family, that my father had died a long time ago, mother was still alive. Somebody was very kind to get a gift from my mum. And the gift was these little furry little stuffed toys. It was a kangaroo. And it got into the habit, the next time I went to visit her, gave her a little kookaburra. The next time, what else was there? A koala bear and a platypus. I remember once getting a wombat. Not a real one, just not little fluffy toys. And I remember she would always prize those. She said, I'll use those to remember you by. That's my son over in Australia somewhere. But she lived in a small apartment, and the only place she could put those was on a little shelf. And on that shelf was all sorts of other mementos from trips overseas, and letters, and goodness knows what else. And all of those things took up a lot of space. And I remembered that story the other day because when I did go to visit the new monastery we're building over in Melbourne, that it's out in the forest, Newbury Buddhist Monastery it's called, and retreat centre, and so the wombats come out. There's no wombats over here in the West Australia, except in in zoos or wildlife parks or something. But I don't know. I kind of like wombats. They're just really they just do their own thing, and they're not particularly beautiful. They're big animals scuffling around. But I almost tripped on one because one was just coming out when I was taking a shortcut, and it just looked at me and turned around and went back into its little burrow afterwards. And I said sorry because it only just come out. Obviously come out later to get some food or get something to eat. But those animals are just really quite cute. They don't tend to harm you or worry about you. They just don't go their way. At least that's what I've always seen. And so anyway, I got her a wombat as well, which was a very big wombat. This was my mum. And my poor mother was trying so hard to put everything on the shelf. She had all these animals on the shelf. She had the first kangaroo which I got for her, a koala bear, and a wombat, and a kookaburra, and a platypus, and I forget what else I got for her. But anyway, she was trying so hard to put the wombat on, there was no space. And I asked her, why don't you just give that first little animal, the kangaroo, away to make some more space for others, and just have one little animal at a time. That's enough. And I remember her looking at me and saying, no, they all remind me of you when you're not here. I can't give any of them away. And so she spent about an hour trying to find ways of balancing them all on this small shelf. And to me that was a little like metaphor of all the attachments we have, even the nice attachments. Why do we keep all these wonderful memories and these wonderful experiences we have with our family and our loved ones and stuff like that? Why can't we just have one at a time? So I said to her, just one kangaroo, take the wombat if you like, and give the other ones away to charity or someone. She said, no. And it shows that why we have attachments. It's because when we put all our emotional liking in one or two objects or one or two people, we've got nothing for anything else. We're just stressed. The detachment, why is it so hard to detach? The classic Buddhist story about detachment is, and its opposite when you do get attached, is that old story of how people in the old days would catch monkeys in the jungle. Actually, the Buddha told this story, but it's been adapted, but it's pretty much exactly how the Buddha said it. In those days, if you wanted to catch a monkey, it's so simple to do. You get a coconut from the tree, and you just hollow out a little bit in the coconut so you can get the coconut water and maybe some of the coconut flesh from the inside. And when you've drunk or eaten as much as you can, then you take the coconut with a little hole in it and you tie it securely to a tree. And you leave it there with a banana inside. And of course, the monkey, some monkey will find it. And when the monkey finds the banana, what does the monkey do? Tries to get the monkey out of the coconut. But the hole is just big enough that you can get your paw in. You get your paw out easy, but you can't get paw plus banana out at the same time. And so when the hunter or whatever it is comes to get the monkey, all the hunter needs to do, just walk up slowly, and the monkey sees the hunter and tries to get the banana out, but can't get the banana out. All he needs to do is let go of the banana and just get the hand out and run away. But it won't do that. So that's how the monkeys get caught. That's how you get caught. Or many, many times. Because we don't know how to let things go. There's many other bananas out there in the world. Why that one? And the reason is because it's yours. You found it. And no one's going to take it away from you. It's mine. That is the problem. That is what we call attachment. The ownership of it. The personal investment. The sense that it's mine. How stupid that is. Because monkeys die because of that. It's why we get into all sorts of trouble because of that. Why can't we just let it go and get another one later on? We can enjoy life. Being detached does not mean we don't enjoy life. We can enjoy the bananas in life, but just not the ones in coconuts. It's not get one from a tree, it's much better. But because this last week, last couple of weeks, there's a lot of people who have been suffering from lots of deaths recently. And these are people close to them, passed away. And I often tell this story about, again, my own father passing away. It's my father passing away story again. But even today, that at York, where I went to, they were saying that many of the children up there were listening to the same old stories from the books or from the talks, which I've been given over so many years. I do repeat myself, but imagine, I've been here 38 years. You can't have so many different stories. You can tell a different story every week. I remember one of the other monks said, when I wrote that first book, the Open the Door of Your Heart book, they said, you're going to run out of stories now because everybody will know your stories now. But nevertheless, every time you tell a story or an anecdote, you can always see something new in it. That's why I love stories. You can add a little bit, take a little bit away. But the point is, stories are the bricks of life. It's not ideas, not theories, but the story. We can relate to stories much easier. And this particular one of my father dying, I couldn't understand why I loved him. I admired him. How come I wasn't attached to him? Because when he died, I could let him go very easily. Can you let your loved ones go? Easily? Why not? Because sometimes holding on to that banana is your father, it's your mother, it's your brother, sister, it's your partner in life. Can we not let them go when we can't keep them? If you love somebody and they're hurting, they're suffering, they're about to die, why on earth can't we let them go? Because they're happy and more peaceful. Their body is at the end of its life. It's hurting, it's in pain. I've done this so many times now. But if you've got a loved one who's really, really sick, or even just a good friend, and you talk with the doctor, there's no real chance of them surviving, please go up to them and tell them they have permission to die. Because a lot of times we try and keep going. Just imagine what it's like for you. You get very, very sick, and the doctor says there's not really a legitimate possibility of you surviving many more days. But you keep trying just because of the loved ones who keep visiting you. They come all this way, visiting you, and you know that your death would make them really, really sad. Like, many of you have been coming here for years. Do you care about me? What if I got really, really sick and was about to die? Would you say, okay, Ajahn Brahm, I'll give you permission to die? Or we'd have to have a committee meeting first of all and have a resolution first of all. Why not? But when we've done that many, many times, the classic case of, this couple, they're a very impressive couple. This nurse from West Australia, husband was from the United States, had this whitewater rafting business. Young couple having a wonderful life. Imagine that's your business. You go to the most incredible places in the world, taking really fit, healthy people, charging them a lot, in these beautiful resorts or hotels, do whitewater rafting all over the world. They're making quite a bit of money out of it and also having a wonderful lifestyle. Until he got cancer. He's only young, but it got worse and worse and worse and worse. And then until he was dying. And she used to come here and would ask, Ajahn Brahm, can you please come and visit? I went to visit many times. But the point was, he wasn't dying. He looked terrible, and he was a really fit man before. Now it's just, when people have cancer, they got really thin, no muscles on their face, everything is really gone, they find it really difficult to get up or do anything. But he was still alive and suffering. And of course that was when I asked her, there are times when there's occasions in your life when you hit the nail on the head. And those are the times when I tell you about. The times when I get it wrong, I don't say. But anyway, this was a beautiful time because that's when I looked at him, looked at her, and I just said to Jenny, have you given permission for your husband to die? And she, there's times when people really understand, they don't even say anything, they get it straight away. She jumped on the bed and just put her hands around her partner, really sweet, very soft, and said to him, Dave, I give you permission to die. It's okay. Stop struggling for me. And you see the two of them, just the ears start welling out of their eyes. Because it's something we didn't realize. That's why we were struggling hard to keep surviving, keep living. For our partner. And it's just adding more suffering to our every hour. And he died that night. I remember I had a wonderful funeral. It's one of the best funerals I remember. It was over in Fremantle. And open funeral. And I messed things up a little bit at the funeral because I told them, you don't have to have a normal coffin. You can have whatever you like. Really? So because he was really into water sports, they made this coffin out of jarrah wood. I think that they made it themselves. His friends made it. And it was so heavy. And it was shaped like a boat. And there had a couple of oars on the top. And the reason why I say it was so heavy, because they put it on a little conveyor, and they turned the switch, and the little window was going to open, and it was going to go through and then close. The trouble was, it was so heavy, the motor on the conveyor couldn't handle it. So I only went halfway through when the window closed. It was stuck halfway. He was halfway in and halfway out. Now, one of the nice things I like about this is always have a look on the funeral director's face when this happens. It almost looks like they're going to die because it's all gone wrong. But I remember good old Jenny, as soon as that happened, she jumped on the conveyor. You've been to funerals before, there's little conveyor belts that take you behind somewhere. She jumped on the conveyor and started pushing. And oh, it was Steve, yeah, not Dave. Steve's friend said, are you trying to get rid of him that quickly? Pushing him. And then it turned into everybody started laughing. I remember one of his school friends said, the time he had it, the first day in his first car, he crashed it. Now the first day in his coffin, he's crashed that too. And that was a wonderful funeral because I'm sure that's exactly what was needed at the time. And eventually just managed to push it through in the right place so it could get through and get cremated. But I like that. It was human. It was not just all done according to plan. That's not what life is. And the whole idea of where that came from, she did let him go. And then there were other times, here we go off on tangents, this other monk which I knew, because we in monasteries together over in Thailand, and he was from Tennessee. He had a really great accent, but he was also a Rhodes Scholar as well. So, and when we were in Thailand together, he got really, really, really sick. And we found out he had like 2 types of typhoid fever at the same time. Came very close to dying, but could recover. But got, I think, Crohn's disease afterwards. And was so weak all the time. He used to be a professional wrestler. That's, you have to have some big sport if you're going to be a Rhodes Scholar. And he was in this room, so in this one of our monasteries in England for years. He couldn't get up. I remember going to see him, and it was just almost depressing. He was there, he tried to be as kind as possible, but he said he was bedridden for about 2 or 3 years at this time. He could maybe, on a good day, get to the door and then collapse and then just crawl back into bed again. And then one day the head monk of that monastery went into his room and said to him, just the two of them, I've come in here on behalf of all of the monks and nuns who know you, on behalf of all your relations and friends and people who care about you. On behalf of all of them, I've come up here to give you permission to die. Stop trying to get well. Stop trying to get better. It's okay. Let go. Detach. He was a very smart man, a very good monk. You know, he was a good meditator before he got sick. And so that's what he did. He stopped trying. And that's when he got better. Honestly, that was the point. He started to improve in his health. And then, eventually, he actually did disrobe, but then he married one of the nuns and then went off to... Okay. But he was alive. And then went off and lived in South Africa. It's a very nice man. I haven't seen him for a long time, but he always said, if ever I get to South Africa, please let me know and he'll come and see him. Very beautiful man. But anyway, that he got better because of that. Because he wasn't trying so hard to get better. That was what was making him sick. I hope you understand that, because that was a wonderful little example. I've seen that many, many times since. So little by little, we get detached. If you live, fine. Of course, that happened to me when I was really sick with scrub typhus. I was saying that today again, this afternoon, about all the bugs which were in northeast Thailand at the time. The locals had immunity. And so no one knew that there was scrub typhus in that part of Thailand. And we would actually sleep on the ground in the forest in our mosquito net tents very often. So that allowed the bugs, the mites, to bite us and spread the disease. And so the local hospital never knew what it was. And I always remember those days because, sometimes when people ask me about how do you feel, what's this Buddhist attitude towards getting the injections, the COVID injections. I don't mind. Whatever you want to inject into me, you can. As long as it's not illegal. But anyway, when I went for those injections, it was just so painless. That's what I really remember, because in Thailand, when you had the injections, for any antibiotic, it was those reusable needles. I don't know if you're any of my age and know, they just actually boil them up to sterilise them. It's almost like a straw. You can just actually see the hole in it. It wasn't sort of microscopic like I have today. And because they use them many, many times, of course you feel them. And I do remember about 2 or 3 weeks, they were putting antibiotics into my backside. One in the morning, one in the afternoon. They alternated the backside. It was this nurse who did it. So I had to expose my bottom. And that there's a few Thai people here, and sometimes people say, these Thai people, they're very petite and nice. This is in the northeast. They were built like water buffalo, honestly. Really strong. And so when they got the needle, they put the stuff in it. Honestly, I'm not exaggerating, it was stabbing you. Every day for morning and afternoon. But of course, so these ones you have over here these days, it's just like even a mosquito. When it bites you, it's much worse than that, or the old March flies. But these don't hurt at all. Amazing. But anyway, then my teacher came to see me. Oh, that's Ajahn Chah, great monk. He came to see me in hospital, just me. And you felt I was only a little monk at that time. I thought, wow, it's like being visited by some big shot, like Dalai Lama or something. I don't know. It's my teacher. And I would just, for 1 or 2 minutes, actually no, less than that, for 30 seconds, I was uplifted. You know what he said to me? Many of you know this. He said, Brahm, that's my full name. You're either going to get better or you're going to die. And he turned around and left. It wasn't funny at the time. I wanted something much better than that. But it worked. There's a great teaching. Why are you so attached to either outcome? It's not going to last. You'll either get better or you'll die. So, what's the problem? If you get better, then, you're fine, you learn a lot. If you die, you just get another body. Maybe a better one next time. Why are we so attached to this body? Why are we so attached to this life? And sometimes you look at our lives, when people do get very, very old. Why are we afraid of dying? If you've got an old car, we had this old car at Bodhinyana Monastery for years, the old Suzuki. The next time you look at the committee reports and read the Bodhinyana reports, at last we've actually got rid of it. It was really dangerous. The point is we had two, so we could actually just get spare parts from the other one. And that was one of the reasons to keep it going. But now we've finally got rid of it. And why don't you get rid of things? It's much easier when you get rid of things. You've more space. So lovely not to be attached to things. And the other thing about letting go of things and not being attached to things, we used to have, because we do a lot of work in Bodhinyana Monastery, we work, and just we build stuff. And that's one of the reasons why all this stuff you see in Bodhinyana Monastery, it may not be perfect, but it's cheap. Because we do a lot of the work. What were you doing recently, just with marking out all of the ablution block for the Hermit's Hill Venerable? I was really impressed, actually. What were you doing, the walking paths, the frames? That was that was Jaiko doing that. Yeah, it's amazing the work they do. It would cost much more if we get sort of so-called experts, and they do a much better job afterwards. One of the reasons you do a much better job is because when you do it yourself, you really put more care into it. And when you put more care into it, you're not really worried about when it's finished, but you make sure it's done well. So anyway, I love it when it's done by monks and what's done by nuns over in Dhammasara. But one of the things is that it's not just saving money, but it's just like doing it beautifully. And where was I going with this one? Well, it's a nice story anyway, just to do it yourselves and do it well. But then there comes a time when you have to let things go. And that time for me, the big one, came from when we had a big bushfire years ago. A long time ago, it's 1991. Okay, that's how old, I always remember this long time in the past. But it was a crown fire. It is still the second hottest day ever in Western Australia. 46.4 degrees, I think it was, in Serpentine. That's hot. And that was before the fire came. And when the fire came, crown fire, boom! The trees were exploding. I always look at the audience before I say that. So if anyone's being a bit sleepy, boom! The trees were exploding. I don't know, I've got a weird character because even when my father died, I was not really afraid or not really sort of shocked. And when the trees exploded, I thought it was really amazing. I was just in awe of nature, not really scared about it. But anyway, we thought that was the end of it. You can ask Ajahn Brahmani, he said that's when he was really started getting impressed with what was going on over in Bodhinyana Monastery. Because he saw, or he was told, I think it came a little bit afterwards, that he was told that once the fire came, I'd done all the building in that monastery, basically. And then I just said, okay, well, it's worth doing. We just have to start again, all over again. That's okay, it's a nice thing to do. But it wasn't, you could let it go. Because you could let it go, you could allow it all to be destroyed by fire and build again afterwards. I was honest, that's how I'd been trained, and you can let things go. What it meant was then afterwards, you were at peace, and it was surprising nothing was destroyed. I'd be quite happy if it was. What was coming before is just when we had a burglar at our monastery. That was a few years ago, so you don't have to worry about telling the auditors, because you just finished the audit, I think, haven't you now? Yeah, almost, yeah. You know what it's like when somebody forgets, I should have told you that, and you have to start all over again and get in trouble with the auditors. It was quite a few years ago now, when we had a burglary. And some people were really upset. Bad karma to steal from monastery. Who were those burglars? We've got to find out who they were. We've got to make sure there's more locks and more chains and more anything else over there. But I said, no. Because that burglar, whoever it was, made a lot of, can you say good karma? But anyway, he was a friend. In the sense that when we found out that everything was insured, and we can get replacements, much better quality and cheaper. That was a really good business deal, that was. Imagine you got all your old stuff, chainsaws, generators, and you get really new ones. No extra cost. Anyway, I shouldn't say that. But anyway, whoever that burglar was, it's about time you came back. No, I can't say that. That's how I felt, I must admit. But anyway, so when you're not attached to things, you can let things go. Because that's what life does. Life takes things from you. And you've got a choice. You can actually just be wise and let it go. It's a waste of time fighting for it. You can get another generator. How many times have you had partners in life? Get replacement. Is that a good idea? I better not go too far there. I get into trouble. But you know that sometimes that people have told me that I've been around long enough now, that sometimes I get very devastated when somebody dies unexpectedly. Like my father. But then afterwards, they find it's not the end of the world. They grieve a little while, but please don't ever grieve too much. The reason why I never felt sadness at my father's death is many of you have heard the story about the fact I always looked upon life as a concert. I used to love music. See some great bands and orchestras and stuff. But then when the concert was over and you shouted for the encore, it's just like Steve and Jenny, just he was dying and she was trying to keep him alive, the whitewater rafters. And then after a while she had to let it go. What a wonderful life they had together. You celebrate her funerals. Wonderful life you shared. Thank you for being with me for all these years. Thank you for being my dad. Which means it's like going to a great concert. I wouldn't have missed that for the world. I'd rather have more years, but those 16 years I had with him were amazing. Thank you. Even if it's not a death, if it's someone has to, you don't get on together and it's the use-by date is over. I use that, and sometimes we think that somebody makes a mistake when a separation happens, a divorce or whatever. But sometimes you've had a wonderful time together, but it's enough. Just like the old bottles of milk or packets of milk, you look at the use-by date. It'd be wonderful if you could have a relationship and you have that stamp somewhere. Best before 2032 or something. But anyway, just You do give it your best. When it's the time, you let it go. That's all you can do. It's beautiful to be able to have that wisdom to detach. Being detached doesn't mean you don't enjoy life. You enjoy the friendships, you enjoy the time you have together, you enjoy all the things which you share together. Thank you. But sometimes it's not always with the same person. It's not always with the same physical place. It's not always with the same car. It's not always with the same banana, if you're that monkey. You can see where the attachments get you. They get you stuck. Because somehow or other, you stick with this ego super ego glue. This is mine. And it's that ego, that sense of self, which does the attaching. It's one of the reasons why that when you go deep in your meditation or your spiritual life, we try to be as attached to as little as possible. It's one of the reasons why monks wear just a simple set of robes. It always looks the same every week. A lot of times it is the same sort of fashions. Not really attached to seniority either. I've been a monk a long time. How long have you been a monk? A long time too. Or a short time, I don't know. But whatever it is, that there are times, I mention this to the monks, so please don't always look upon me as being senior. Now, even like always having to bow to people who are senior. To me that doesn't fit. You know, when I first became a monk in Thailand, people would bow to me, and I would tell them, look, I'm only a novice monk at this time, I've only just ordained, please don't bow to me. And then they said, okay. And then I kind of missed it. I realised that I was attached to it after all. But these days, some people do, some people don't. And it's nice always to be like friends, rather than seniors and equals. There's a lot of trouble when we get hierarchies. Who's the boss and who's the junior? And that's one of the reasons why that good old Hock Chin, our president, he's always been on. That's actually your legacy, Hock Chin. I mean, you can't retire yet. You've got a few years to go. I mean, as president. But he always says we work as a team, rather than just a boss and slaves. And even like as a monk, it always has to be as a team, even with the nuns as well. We have lots of bhikkhunis, now fully ordained Buddhist nuns, and at last we managed to get it so that we have the bhikkhunis stay at Bodhinyana Monastery. The only hierarchy is who was ordained first. That's all. And we try and get rid of those hierarchies as much as we possibly can. Because the hierarchies, to me, don't really work. Instead, we don't attach to who's the most senior. We detach and listen to one another and try and work out things together. Democracy, it's really time-consuming. Being a dictator, being a sort of a senior and everyone listens to you is much quicker. But it's not about being fast. It's about being fair and including people and making it inclusive so it's our place. It's the same way that when there are sort of not just funerals, but like marriages. I don't think I said this last week, but probably a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure. But I always remember when people come up to me for marriage blessings. I think the last one was a Sri Lankan couple. They'd just been married. And I told them, well, look, you're just a newly married Sri Lankan couple, highly intelligent. And said that according to Sri Lankan Buddhist tradition, that when you're single, you're just like a two-legged animal, you can go wherever you want. But when you're married, you're like an elephant. You know how elephants are really important in Sri Lankan culture. So you're an elephant with 4 legs. have to go the same way. And also, really important to know that in Sri Lanka, the front legs of the elephant have to be the man, and the back legs have to be the female, the woman. Same as in Thailand. Please don't cancel your membership of the BSWA yet. You haven't heard the punchline. The front legs of the man, the back legs of the woman. But in Sri Lanka and Thailand, the elephant always walks backwards. It's true. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is that just in a hierarchy, there's problems. But in a community, we never think of ourselves. We never think of our partner. I often say that people still, you catch them quite a lot. And what is this monk talking about? When I tell them, please, you don't think about yourself in a relationship. You don't think about your partner. In a relationship, you only think of us. It's the third option. Not me, not them, but us. You're in it together. It's one of the problems with the conflicts in Ukraine and Russia. Some think this is ours. It belongs to me. We control things. That's not the world. We're all in it together. You were saying something to me earlier that you were wondering, how can we get some of these talks translated into Ukrainian? With some people who have contacted you from these refugees in Ukraine, Ukrainian refugees over in Czechoslovakia. And they said, well, yeah, of course you can, but there's a lot of talks apparently in Russian. And I said, would they like listening to those talks in Russian? In Ukrainians? Yeah, of course. I think you've been a Buddhist for quite a while now, so you can't see any problem there, and there shouldn't be any problem. The world is about us. If it's about us, you can't really have a conflict. What's the difference between a Russian and a Ukrainian? An ordinary one. People at the top, when there's hierarchies, there's problems. Ordinary people, the problems start to vanish. It's one of the reasons why I like the idea of, and feel very dangerous if people say, oh, Ajahn, can you tell the monks this? Can you tell them that? You don't order people around. You suggest and let the monks make the decision. The family makes the decision. Our Buddhist society, each one of you, make the decisions. It's your place. It's one of the reasons why we asked if any of you are good at gardening. It's the gardener you want, isn't it, Bill? A gardener and a volunteer coordinator. We've been asking for that for years. If we get one, it will be weird. But anyway, did I get a volunteer? I often say if anybody is having a difficult time in life, you get depressed, or you have difficult problems, you can't find a job, you find it very hard to find a good partner in life, finances are very difficult, you're having really... Isn't that telling you something? You need to make some more good karma. I don't know how successful your movies are. Maybe you need to do something here. Plant a garden, volunteer or something. There's a lot of serious stuff about that, because when you're kind and you help others in a really good place with a good attitude, you're not exploited, but you're part of everything, part of the team. It's amazing just some of the joy and fun you can have. You can get really good funerals. where things get stuck. Oh, it just reminds me of just some of the... I was doing this for it. Please don't have wealthy funerals. I remember doing this Chinese funeral once, and they had so much stuff on the coffin on the outside. You know, some baubles and stuff. And when they were lowering it in a burial, I was doing the chanting. And as they were lowering it, it got stuck halfway. Honestly. And I was carrying on doing the chanting because I didn't want anyone to realise that something had gone wrong. I was chanting and chanting and chanting. I was really getting sore throat. And they were trying to pull it up and then push it down and pull it down. Eventually they got it free. But things go wrong in life. Instead of being attached, it has to be done this way, it has to be right. Can't we have a little bit more lateral actions, lateral ways of doing things a bit differently every now and again? In other words, see if we can be more detached. I gave this little booklet, I forget actually where I gave it to now, but it was a Buddhist booklet which I remember from the time I used to go to the temple in London, the Thai temple, Wat Buddha Badipa in Richmond, before it moved over to Wimbledon. And I was always trying to get this book out of the library, but I couldn't. It was the most popular book in the library at that time in Wat Buddha Badipa. That's 50 years ago. I managed to find a copy of it again. It's a little beautiful book. It's about 90 years old. It's a little booklet about the cat that went to heaven. I like cats. I don't know why. They kill lots of birds. I like birds too. But you know, these little animals. But anyway, this was supposed to be in Japan. A poor painter was asked to paint a picture for the the final passing away of the Buddha, and all the animals who actually supported the Buddha during its life. You know, you've got the tigers and the horses and all these other animals. But at the same time, this little painter had a little cat he looked after. And every day the little cat would actually sit next to the painter all day and just watch him paint. And he would never catch any birds, this little cat. And then every day when he painted a different animal, paying respects to the Buddha at his final passing away, the little cat got sadder and sadder and sad. You could read its features on its face. And every day, at the beginning of the day, I would look at the painter and then look at the canvas and get more and more disappointed as it saw it was making a photo even like a snake or like a rabbit or whatever, but never a cat, because the cat's always like proud and independent. And at the very end, the last day, and the last picture on the painting, the painter looked at the cat, looked at the empty space on the canvas, and thought, why should I be attached to rules? There's nothing wrong with this or harmful in this. So he painted a picture of the kitten, the cat, the very last animal. Even though he knew that such a painting would not be accepted. It's not it's not historically accurate. But he painted it anyway. And that little cat would look, eyes going wider and wider, as he saw its little body painted in front of the Buddha, at the very back of the line, but it was on the canvas. And he died. He died of happiness and joy. The little cat who went to heaven. And that evening, the head monk of the temple in Japan came up and had a look at the paintings. Very well done, but when he saw, what did you do? You painted a cat on the end of the painting. We'll give you a little money for your labour, but we'll burn it in the temple tomorrow morning. They can't use it. So the painter was ruined. The next morning, one of the attendants of the temple came really early. Come! You've got to come now. What's gone wrong? You're burning the painting? No, we're not going to burn that painting. Come and have a look, see what's happened. And when they saw that painting, he saw the very end where the cat was, what he painted. Now there's no cat there at all. It vanished. And right at the front, before even the big elephants and the lions, this tiny little cat with the Buddha's hand on its head. The cat that went to heaven. I always remember that story because, we do have rules and things we're supposed to do. But more important than anything else is the kindness. Be attached to kindness, to compassion, to forgiveness, to inspiration, to peace. Let go of this other stuff. That's what we should let go of. Be detached from that. Okay, I better stop, otherwise I'm going to go for a really long time. Hope you enjoyed that.